Why is the confidence so high?
Guys, we have. I think we've been here before. We've been doubted before. We've had these same questions heading into playoffs last year. And so like for us, it's just we welcome that challenge. It's not like we're just pushing it under the carpet. We're doing everything we can to get this run game going, to get this play action game going, to help give our defense a rest. But we've been here before. We've been doubted, and every time we've proven them wrong. So that's why I have confidence. That's why everyone does.
Hey y'all, it's Matt Rogers, of course, the host of the Honorable Mention. Today we have OJ Spivey from the Philadelphia Tribune, and we'll be taking a look at the playoff field and the Eagles' chances in it. OJ, once again, we're talking about the playoff-bound Philadelphia Eagles. Just where they'll be seated at the moment is unclear, but they'll most likely be playing the Rams or the Packers in Philly. Last season at a similar time, you and I were talking about, and you guys can rewind. It's all interesting, to listen back at different snapshots in time, like a picture. These shows, we had a show that people liked a lot, and we talked a lot about should Saquon Barkley have sat out that last game. The mystery around what Nick Sirianni is going to do this year it's already cleared up. The Eagles are going to sit. You advise caution for Saquon Barkley. Did you like this decision to go ahead and let the players get some mental and physical rest?
Well, Matt, I'm a bit ambivalent about the matter, and this is something that I'll write about this weekend. I was leaning toward the side of playing these guys because, when you throw the history and you throw the stats out there, I believe that they probably should have played because if you look at the Eagles have won their last 7 games, their last 7 home games at the Link. Last 7. Jalen Hurts has 6 of those wins, those victories, right? So 2 in 2002 and then 3 last season, of course, where they went back to the Super Bowl and won it. So the Link has a great home field advantage. And I believe that if you can have as many games at the Link as you can, you should try to guarantee yourself that or put yourself in position to do that. But with them sitting, I do think there still could be a path. And again, this is ambitious thinking it. There still is a path to where they could have more than one home game. But I'm of the belief, and this kind of contradicts how I felt last year, because you're just going after a record as opposed to now you're going after home field advantage or some type of home field advantage. So I just believe that if you can have as many games at the Link in the playoffs, you should. But I get the other side of it. Now this is a gamble also. So are they doing this to just rest because they rest on their morals? They believe in their morals that no matter what, whether they're playing at home or whether that's out west or Chicago, wherever they end up in the second round, perhaps, or there's a scenario where they could play back home again if one of the higher seeds get knocked off. It's kind of a big gamble, I think. But again, you're guaranteed nothing in the playoffs. But again, I'm a bit ambivalent about it. But if I would have leaned toward one side, I would have said, okay, maybe try to play these guys. Or they feel also that they probably can still win the game.
I think so.
With Tanner McKee starting. But who's going to start on that offensive line? You still have to protect him. Because I don't know where Washington ranks defensively. Obviously, they're not a very good team. They're quite terrible, actually. Yeah. But I think they believe they can still win because who's that? Josh Johnson is the starting quarterback this week.
Right.
But I'm not worried, period. But if I had a concern, it's definitely not on the offensive side with Washington, it's on the defensive side. And you know how Dan Quinn is. He's one of those old school tough guys to where, he's going to have these guys rush. He's going to have these guys blitz, all those type of things. And then,
especially because of what he said.
Right. You have that aspect also, but you're also not throwing to Smitty or AJ Brown, I presume, or
Nope.
even Dallas Goedert. You're
Going to
resting your
Darius
morals.
Cooper.
Yeah, you're resting your morals on Jahan Dotson, who I like, and also Darius Cooper. So here's another thing to where I think if there's so many people excited, or maybe too excited for my liking, about the backups playing, and I think there's an agenda there, Matt. I think people believe that, or they want to see, or they have this inkling that just because you plug Tanner McKee in there, that the offense is going to flow smoothly. And all that will prove to me again is that he can run the offense against a bad defense,
just like he did against the Cowboys.
Exactly. And again, he went in there because Pickett got hurt, and of course now he is the backup. But there's so much. I like Tanner McKee. I interviewed him a couple times, and I like him. I like his ability, but I think people are putting too much stock in these backups playing, and I don't think you can just assume that they're going to win this game because most of the backups are going to be playing.
No, and you make a great point in that respect, discussing who's gonna block for Tanner McKee. I'm not going to call guys out by names, but the starting offensive line has not been great.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I was going to. That's just what I was going to say. That says, okay, well, the offensive line hasn't been able to run the ball all season. Maybe people are excited for Bigsby or Shipley, who I think is slow as molasses. But
he is.
Maybe people are excited about that, and maybe Bigsby's good enough to where maybe he may not need a line just as much. That's something to look forward to, I guess. But there's this blind assumption for some reason, and I'm not ready to go that route.
Yeah. So what could end up happening? Things stay how they are. Eagles don't move up. Bears don't lose to the Lions. Eagles don't beat the Commanders. Eagles end up 3 seed. Things stay how they are. They get the Rams in the first round in Philly. I say bring it on. It kind of feels like it's just been, it's just like when you have two boxers that are just knocking folks out, it's like, all right. Now, I will say asterisk on that, because if we want to deal in facts, in reality, these two boxers have fought this year, and one had the other down, and they just couldn't put the other one away. And the champ walked out with the win. They've beaten the Rams 3 straight times, but this is the matchup that folks have been spoiling for. So I'm not going to be in any way disappointed. I think it may be exactly what the doctor ordered. It might be a great way to thrust the offense into the spotlight. Maybe give them exactly. What do you say about that, kind of the specter of that?
I think, Matt, even though they did play early this season, and it was a neck and neck game, like you said, it was a 15-round bout, just about.
Yep. It was.
The Eagles' defense is that much better.
Significantly better. Adoree, he's not even the same football player.
Right. And people were even saying when Dallas cut Diggs this week, and it's like, oh, pick him up. So what they need to pick him up for? So Adoree Jackson is fine, and even so, he's not going to come in here and start right away.
No.
And he has a huge contract. You had to pick up the rest of his contract, I believe. So at least for this year. But Adoree Jackson's fine. He's solid. And that's all you can ask for on the other side when you have such a great player as Quinyon Mitchell. And I think we can call him great now, right?
Oh, yeah. I would call him a great player.
But
he's one of those top 10 corner guys, top 5 corner guys, I would say, at this point.
Right. So you look at the numbers of the Eagles defense since I think it's the actual week that Phillips started playing. Since that time, they've given up the fewest points per game, 14 and a half.
Was that Green Bay? Yeah, that was Green Bay.
14 and a half points per game. You look overall in the season, only Houston and I think Denver or Seattle. I forget who's second, but Houston's number 1 in overall points allowed, total points allowed. 3. Philly's number 3, exactly. That's remarkable. And they're that much better. You see what they did to Josh Allen, who runs around like, he runs around like a horse, right? So, and they were able to hog-tail him down several times. Unless
can I throw in another little stat nugget on the Eagles defense? I looked at it before the show. A ridiculous one. They've allowed 13 passing touchdowns this season. You think about all of the quarterbacks they played this season. 13.
And
that's
I think
number 1.
They have not given up a touchdown pass in the third or fourth quarter, I believe.
Oh my gosh!
All season, if I read that correctly.
Ridiculous. Wow.
So so that's how you only give up 13 touchdowns per season. I got to look and see what the overall season record is.
They got to be close to it because you play 17 games. They're allowing fewer than 1 passing touchdown a game
per game. Yeah, that's astonishing.
in a passing league, they give up a lot of yards. I always and last year we were talking about how the Eagles ranked because they were ranked much higher in terms of defense because the lead indicator people look at yards. This year, they're in terms of points, and points is more important to me. I mean, it's like, can you get done what you need to do? Can you get that team off the field? Now, this Eagles defense gives up more yards, but it's a lot of empty calorie yards.
Right. And a lot of times yards can come when you're behind.
Yes.
And that's why when people look at passing yards, you have to kind of look at that. But I know that's how you measure. How some people measure a quarterback, how can they come back? How can they, win from behind? If you have a lead, you don't have to do as much. But yeah, so many people put too much stock in yards per game, total yards offensively and defensively. For me, and I've always been a stickler about this. Okay. How many points do you give up per game? How many points do you give up overall?
Mm-hmm.
But definitely how many points do you give up per game? And if you look at the great defenses of all time, it's right around. And I think even last year, overall, the Eagles gave up, I think it was somewhere between 18 and 19 points per game.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
That's the right neighborhood.
Yeah. And in today's NFL, if you give up under 20 points per game, you have a very, very good defense. And then unless you're going back to talk about, teams like the 2000 Ravens, the Steel Curtain of the 70s, and even who I watched this week, their documentary, that Tampa Bay, that 2002 team, which was remarkable, even though they ended up giving up, I think, 26 points in the Super Bowl. But going back to your overall point, your overall question, the defense is much better. And if they can run down and hog-tail Josh Allen, what do you think they're going to do? What do we anticipate they're going to do with Matthew Stafford again, unless all of his 37-year-old self all of a sudden becomes Dan Marino with the quickest release ever? And that's what he's going to need. Because if he just stays in that pocket with Phillips, with Jalix Hunt, with Smith, and then you have Carter and Davis in the middle
now,
right? And you're rotating in guys like with Jomu and all those guys, and we're not even talking about Brandon Graham and
we're Kobe Dean coming on a blitz,
right? The
or Zach Vaughn coming on a blitz,
right? The spot steps that he has, and you see I know some people were saying, "Oh yeah, Josh Allen had a little bum foot and all that and everything." He was still able to run around, right? So, but when
I
they
don't
ran
think
around,
the way the Eagles defense was hitting him, I don't think it made him feel any better. I don't think it made that fit.
no, and he's definitely going to sit out this week too because I think they're set in their seating this week. So
We set them.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, but as far as the Rams is concerned, all the questions are just going to be on the Eagles offense. How much can they score? And people have come to me and they believe so much in this defense, and they've said to me, a couple of my friends have said, if the Eagles can get somewhere around 17 to 20 points, that might be all they need in the playoffs. Because I know we'll talk about the different opponents, but with the Rams, do you think they're going to put up a whole lot of points against this defense? I don't think so.
I could see 24.
Perhaps.
I could see it in that late flurry where the crunch of, hey, the finality, the season's over, same kind of scenario. I could see them putting up in the low 20s. But I don't think the offense is going to be as poor as I think the getting Lane Johnson back it's been talked about enough.
No, you're right.
I guess as many of the people who are listening to this podcast, I hope people will look at the statistics of with Lane Johnson on the field versus not. I mean, the statistics with AJ Brown on and not are huge, but Lane Johnson, it's incredible really that the Eagles have been able to continue steady the ship, really still leave the Cowboys in the dust without Jalen Carter for a couple weeks and Lane Johnson. But the running game, I think, is going to be able to – there are going to be a couple of explosives that do get hit in the running game in the playoffs, I believe.
Yeah, I hope so, because we haven't seen it all year, and there's been a conspiracy out there that the Eagles are holding back offensively. I don't know how true that is, but I don't hate it. I don't hate the conspiracy.
In
I'm
some
like,
respect, it opens it up. The zone read with Jalen Hurts. I mean, we all know that that's that's not even a secret, is that they're not really trying to run that, and that opens so much up. I mean, you think even back how Nick Foles was able to hold that backside with the zone read and how that opens up the offense. So when Jalen Hurts can come back out that backside, it may open up that running game a lot more.
We'll see, and maybe they'll turn him loose more, and he won't be as
reticent.
Yeah, as reticent or erring on the side of caution.
Yep.
With his running ability and all. Although he does seem frustrated sometimes with the offense. So we'll see, but that's really going to be the big question, because I think defensively, some people seem to be worried about the Rams, and I can't see why. And maybe because they're caught up, because Stafford is your boy, your guy. Stafford is going to be the de facto MVP this season.
Yeah.
Although he didn't look like an MVP.
No, he did
against
not.
Atlanta.
That was a big game. That was a big game against a non-playoff team. To even put him, his team could have got the first. Now that's MVP. Now he'll still win it, but I don't know. Drake May. I don't know. That was a big spot for Stafford to come in and leave a little number 2 on the field.
Yeah, exactly. But I wasn't impressed. I wasn't impressed at all. Eagles can beat that team. I mean, will the Rams defense give them a little bit of problems, maybe up front, and all those things, or maybe their front seven a little bit. But I was not impressed with the Rams at all, and I don't see the concern, not in the least bit from the Rams offense.
Yeah. So Rams aside, who would you prefer to see in the first round? These are potentials. Green Bay, Seattle could still drop down, or San Francisco.
So you say, who would I prefer to see? Well, I think by default, I would say Green Bay, because number one, there's no more Michael Parsons this year
Right.
because Micah Parsons has, had to have surgery this week, so we're not going to see him until next season. You don't know the health of Jordan Love, even though they might be, holding him out as a precaution. Congratulations to him, by the way. Him and his partner are going to have a child.
Oh,
Congratulations to Jordan Love. But I'm not worried about Green Bay because they really look like they really can't stop anybody defensively.
Right.
And you kind of don't know what you're going to get with them offensively.
No.
Again, we're looking back at another tight game that they played, and I know the weather was brutal. The weather could be brutal again. We don't know, but Green Bay looks like a shell of themselves, especially defensively.
Absolutely.
So I'd much rather see Green Bay. And I had the same concern about San Francisco, even though the 49ers could score. They could score at will, but they haven't seen a defense like they have not seen a defense like the Eagles. Well, maybe
No.
Seattle, because Seattle has a similar defense. They just don't have as many stars as the Eagles have. But you look at that San Francisco Bears game, no one was playing defense that night, so I'm not worried about them so much, maybe just offensively, just a little bit. But again, they haven't seen this type of defense other than Seattle. So
that could get the Eagles going. Go ahead and go hang 30s on somebody in the playoffs.
Yeah,
Get the
yeah,
juices
very, very
flowing.
well could.
Yeah.
And then if Seattle happens to come here, they're pretty much the unknown to me. That might be a game where it might be another 17-14 or 13-10 because you're going to have two defenses clashing. So again, the mystery for the Eagles is just, okay, how are they going to come off offensively? Have they been holding back? Will they look that much better with Lane Johnson and now what we presume would be a healthier Cam Jurgens and a healthier Landon Dickerson? So we'll see.
Yeah, if any of those three, I would rank it as you did. I think I still have to respect Seattle as the toughest of those three. I would put it in the order, I guess, as you
Yeah, I agree.
Green Bay, San Francisco, Seattle. I would be certainly glad to play Seattle. I don't think that the Seahawks are a better team than the Eagles. I think that but if the Eagles would need to go to Seattle, that could be because the Eagles haven't beaten. Now it's not the same exact team. Something though.
That's another thing you have to look
Eagles
at with trends and stats. Yeah.
It's not the same exact team, but they have not beaten the Seahawks in Seattle since 2008. So it's interesting. That's the order I would go in. But I would prefer to see Rams first. We are recording this before
Absolutely.
that is all shaken out. I would just get it out of the way, and then whoever the Eagles have to play after that would get, because that's who everybody's been saying, oh, watch out. If the Eagles run into a high-powered offense in the playoffs, like a Matthew Stafford in the Rams, then
I don't see that at all. I mean, I love Nakua. I mean, Nakua's the man. Devontae Adams is they can ball right there on the at the wideout position, but I believe they can certainly get to Stafford and rattle him just as much, if not more, than they did with Allen. So.
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna ask your confidence in these different units heading into the playoffs. I guess we can say 10 is ultimate confidence, 0 is I have no confidence at all. Why I can't believe that this unit's even in the playoffs. Let's go with the offense first. What's your confidence on a scale of 1 to 10 heading into the playoffs?
I say about a solid 7.
Yeah.
Because again, there's some unknowns. Again, the more we talk about it, I'm starting to believe, okay, is that theory that is they're holding back where, they have some things in the playbook that they'll come out and, you're going by the belief of last playoff season where, they just came out blasted like a cannon in the NFC Championship game and in the Super Bowl, right? So, maybe they had some daggers left in the playbook. And some people believe that they better have some daggers left in the playbook. But I also put that confidence at a solid 7 because who you have at quarterback. It's Jalen Hurts, even when it hasn't looked pretty. I mean, this team is on the verge of, I know he won't play on Sunday, but this team has won double-digit games 4 years in a row, and they've won at least 11 games 4 years in a row. So no matter how it looked or how it does look, Jalen Hurts is the constant. And great teams, when they don't play their best, great teams know how to win, can still win, even when they don't play their best. And who is the constant with that? That's Jalen Hurts. And the more people complain about it, the more people bitching and gripe about it, all he cares about is winning, and he doesn't care how it looks. And again, I mentioned that, he may get frustrated with some of the offensive calls and, how they go about things and, not getting to play until there's, 10 seconds left or the play clock, which infuriates me. Yeah, I mean, he's the constant. So you can't, on that alone, I don't think you can rationally have a low or mid-range number, just simply because of Jalen Hurts. And again, what I mentioned before, their health. So he finds ways to win.
Yep.
Especially at home. So
I'd be in this. Yeah. If we're buying the theory that they will do more of that quarterback run, which I know will drastically change the way defenses have to play them, the way the ends can crash down and have to guard Saquon, or the passing game linebackers, tight ends going over the middle, opens up a lot of stuff. So it's in that 6-7 range. Definitely agree with that. What about your confidence in the Eagles defense heading into the playoffs?
Oh man, I mean, we can talk the whole show about that, right? I put them at a solid 9.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think
not at a 10, they're not the 86 Bears,
right. Yeah, we don't, but only the 85 Bears, right? But like I said, some of the other defenses like 2000 Ravens, the Bucks era with Sapp and Brooks and all those guys, where I mean, literally you could just tell them, give us 14 points and we'll win the game, right? We'll do our part. The Eagles are almost at that point because again, who are you going to block on that defensive line? Who are you going to block? And if you take up those guys, like you mentioned, Zach Bourne, Nakobe Dean, those guys. And when I talked to Nakobe Dean a few weeks ago, I forget which game it was, but it was one of the games where he had a really good game, and I believe it appeared, because I asked him about it, it appeared that he blitzed a couple times and got home.
Oh, against the Lions.
Right.
When he got home and he put Jahmyr Gibbs or David Montgomery into Jared Goff.
Yeah, almost put him 6 feet under. Right, exactly. So I asked him about that, and he said Vic really doesn't call blitzes like that. And he said, he said he really wasn't blitzing. He just said pretty much Vic gives us the ability to read and react. I'm paraphrasing here, but whether it's Dean or Bourne, they read or they diagnose the play, and they just go for it. That's how smart they are. That's how athletic they are. So what appears to be might be a blitz is not a blitz necessarily. It's them reading the play. And they have the ability, they have the autonomy to get after it. And that was impressive and I learned something there. And that's one of the things that's a cautionary tale about being a reporter, or all the all the football, so-called football geeks who think they know what they're watching with the all 22s, right? You talk to players, find out what they're doing. Of course, they're only going to tell you too much, but I'm glad that it was a simple question, simple enough question where he in essence corrected me, and I welcome that correction because I learned a lot, and I hope my followers and readers learned a lot too, because it makes sense. So I put them at a solid 9, and then you look on the back end for the credit that they're getting. Of course, Desheen, Mitchell, what Blankenship has done. Coming up and just making tackles. I mean, you can say what you want about some of his coverage skills, but I think he's played well the last few weeks. And I think even the X factor, which a lot of people aren't talking about, is Marcus Epps. I know he's dealing with it's a good thing now because of course he probably won't play. He's in a concussion protocol right now, but he's been quite solid.
Oh yeah. He was solid during the Eagles 22 Super Bowl run.
Right. And, it's like the equivalent where, quarterback gets hurt and then they bring an old quarterback in and say, oh, yeah, who they had before. Oh, he knows the offense. Epps knows the defense. Right. Mm-hmm. So, and I put him at a solid 9 because number one, they have been dominant and they could travel.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I look forward to first round. I think people who are predicting and talking about Eagles one and done. I look forward to the next episode where I can.
Man, I think the only possible way that they could be one and done, and I think this is with any of the teams that we mentioned, where they end up being a 2 seed or a 3 seed. I think the only way they do a one and done if they lose the turnover battle.
Yep.
Because I don't think any team is going to come in here and overpower that defense. And obviously it's not going to be the Bears in round 1, which we didn't even talk about. The earliest we'll see the Bears is probably in the second round, at least in the second round. So other than that, the way they run their
Chicago,
offense,
go take that home field.
Yeah. So I don't see any of those 4 teams that remain coming here and be a juggernaut against his defense. No way.
I will check back. We will check back in with y'all. Thank you all for so much for listening all the way to the end. You can go and subscribe on YouTube, wherever you listen to this. Go ahead and drop a subscribe and a like. Share it on social media. Also, go follow OJ Spivey on all the social media platforms, OJ Philly and OJ Spivey, the journalist. Anything else you want the viewers to check out before they go?
Yes, of course. I'm on Threads. I'm still on Twitter, on Blue Sky as well. And if you can, and even just not for me, of course, I'm your guest, but not only go to phillytrib.com, especially if you're interested in news of the African American community, especially here in Philly. We do some national stuff too. Please subscribe to the Philadelphia Tribune. We are the oldest continuously published African American newspaper in the nation, so please subscribe. When I say to my listeners, or my followers, I should say, or my readers and all, as far as newspapers is concerned, and the way media is under attack, the way Black media is under attack, I said we both need each other. Subscribe to us, and we'll return the favor.
Appreciate that, and I'll definitely go get my subscription. Thank you all for listening, and I'll see you all soon. Go Birds.
Birds fakes, rolls, throws, touchdown! He's got Goddard for his 11th touchdown of the season.
They have dialed up so many beautiful plays and executed the plays to Dallas Goedert in the red zone.